Hello everyone, this is Paramita and today I am going to share with you how to write trigger in Apex. Okay, so in my last two videos I have shared with you like the basic syntax of Apex, like we created one calculator class and there I have shown like how to write the basic Apex. Like we created one small calculator, we created two methods like add for doing the addition and then multiplication, and after that I also explained about the collection in Apex, like list, map, set, and what are the main difference. And also in my last video I have discussed like how to work with Salesforce data. Okay, like how to do the CRUD operation, like how to insert a record, how to retrieve record, how to update, and how to delete all those things. Okay, and there I have applied that collection like list, set, map, etc. Okay, so now we are going to start to see how to write trigger using Apex. Okay, now before I start, few things I want to discuss, like what is trigger. Okay, so basically trigger is a piece of code, okay, which we'll write using Apex, and that will execute basically before any changes in Salesforce records, like suppose before insert or after inserting a record, or before update or after updating a record, or before delete or after delete, or after undelete. Okay, so before or after changes in record, these triggers are going to execute. Okay, so this is basically a piece of code which we will write using the Apex. Okay, and what are the use cases? There can be a lot of use cases, and again you have to decide like whether there will be some use cases, where you can see that either you can use flows or you can use Apex. So you have to see the scenario and available resources and stuff, what will be beneficial, whether you should use flow or Apex. Okay, so you can decide that. There will be so many scenarios where you can use both Apex or flow. Okay, so you can choose depending on your situation which one to use. Okay, now just few example, like automatically assign a task when a record is created. Okay, there may be some situation. Suppose one lead is created, newly lead is created. So you want to create a task for that newly created lead. Okay, so these kind of things you can use like a trigger. Okay, to automate the task creation, then prevent deletion of a record based on conditions. Okay, so then update related records when a field changes. A lot of time you are going to use these, like mm, suppose lead conversion. Suppose there is a standard field in a lead, and but that standard field exactly is not present, suppose in contact. But when the lead converted, you want to map that field from lead to contact. So now you cannot map one standard lead field to one custom contact field. Okay, so in that situation you can use Apex trigger. Okay, we can do an workaround about that. Okay, we can create another lead field where where we will populate using the Apex trigger, and then that another field or placeholder field, you can say, that's going to be a custom field in lead that can be mapped to that custom field in contact. So in this way, like a lot of situations will come where you can use Apex trigger. So gradually maybe we'll discuss about some practical scenarios, but what I'm going to do, there are a lot of videos available already in the internet. So after finishing this video, I will reveal those sources where you can go and you can continue with practicing more advanced Apex trigger, okay, which are already available in the internet. So there is no point for me to make the same video. So here in this video, what I'm going to do, so I will write the trigger from the basic, and we are going to discuss about the best practices also when we are writing the trigger. And I will create one like sort of boilerplate like template for a nice trigger which can be used for any project basically. Okay, so yeah, so let's start. We'll go to our developer console now. So to write a trigger, same, we'll go to File, then New. Here we can write Apex class, Apex trigger. I'll write Apex trigger. Okay. So give it a name. So I am going to write this trigger maybe for now on account object. So I will just give it a name like this. Account trigger. Okay. And the A subject, I'm going to write this trigger on account object. So I'll choose account. Oh, there is already on account trigger of this name. Okay, so I just change the name. I'll give account trigger test1. Now here probably I have already practiced some trigger before, that's why account trigger is already there. Now I want to mention about some best practices about the trigger. When you are going to work in a real org, what happens if you have more than one trigger? It can create a chaos, like, because you cannot control the order of execution in trigger. Okay, which trigger will first execute, you don't know. So that's why what is the best practice is that you should have like one trigger for each object, not more than one. If you have one trigger, within that trigger we can use some if else statement or switch statement, and we can control the execution of code, like to some, like the order of execution to some extent. Okay, but if you have more than one trigger, a lot of trigger, which one will first execute you don't know, so that may create a lot of problems. So best practice is just create one trigger for each object. Okay, and within that you create your business logics, and then use trigger handler class, like within the trigger. Once I'll start writing the trigger, I'll show you the business logic. Whatever we'll write, if we write within the trigger itself, it will create your code very clumsy. Okay, that's not a good practice. So always use some helper class or handler class. Okay, basically keep your business logic in a separate Apex class. Okay, we'll do that, then we'll discuss. And another to practice this is like SQL. Yeah, try to avoid write SQL inside the for loop. Like if you write inside the for loop, it will just hit the governor limits very soon. So that's not a good idea. So always keep SQL query outside the loop. Same with the DML statement. If there is any DML statement like insert, delete, update, keep them outside the loop. Okay, otherwise it will be very easy to hit the governor limit. We don't want that. Okay, so these are some basic good practice. So here you can see it's already providing one like one template here. So first we will write trigger, like we declare the class in Apex, we write the class keyword. So here we write trigger keyword. Okay, so trigger account trigger test1 is the name of my trigger. Okay, and on account. Account is here, is the object on which I want to write this trigger. Then we have to pass the event here. Okay, so what are the events here? On which event we can fire the trigger? I already yeah. So basically, there are two main types of trigger. One is before trigger, one is after trigger. What is the before trigger? So before trigger is fired like before saving of the new record. Like if you are inserting a record, or if you are updating a record, okay, or if you are deleting a record, basically before the change, okay, before the change of the record, this trigger is going to execute it. That is before trigger. And after trigger means just the opposite, after the change. Okay, so that means after the record is saved, if you are inserting the record after the record is saved, or if you are updating the record after updating is updated record is saved, or if you are deleting record after deleting the record. Okay, so before record is fired before the record changes, and after trigger is fired after the record is changed. So these are main two types of the trigger: before trigger, after trigger. Now, then again, as I said already, depending on the trigger events like insert, update, and delete, we can say before insert, before update, after update, before delete, after delete, and after undelete. There is no before undelete, because before undelete there will not be anything. So that is, there is no before undelete. Just remember that there is only after undelete. Okay. So all these are basically these 7 trigger events we can pass inside our trigger. Now, if you write one trigger for before insert, one trigger for after insert, you can, but I already explained that that's not a very good practice. We should write only one trigger for one object. So in that case, whatever event we need for that object at the moment, we will pass all inside this trigger. Okay. For the time being, suppose I am passing before insert, after insert, everything. Okay. Before insert, after insert, then before update, after update, then before delete, after delete. You can pass after undelete also. Okay, but right now I'm just passing 6 of this. I'm just leaving the undelete for the moment. But if you have any like scenario that you are going to use that trigger, you can pass that as well. Now, after this, suppose I will write here, like, I know I have to write the business logic as per the requirement, but just to test the trigger, it's triggering or not, processing or not, executing or not, I'm just writing system dot debug it's triggered. Okay, I'll just type it's triggered. Oh, there's a mistake. I have to put a delete. Yeah, so now how we can check? There are a lot of way to check. You can write a test class, or what we are going to do first, I will just create one new account. Okay, I'll create one new account. I'll just create it physically now for the testing. So I am in my org. I will go to account. Yeah, so just create a new account. Save. The account is created. Okay, now I'll go back to my developers org. I'll not see anything as such here. I'll click on the log. Here you can see. I'll just click on that. I'll click on debug because I have, yeah, see? So it's triggered, so it's working. That means the event fired, the trigger was fired on the event of inserting, because I have inserted a record here in the account update. I created the new account. That means I have inserted a new record. So, but why you are getting here 2 times? Because I printed only 1 time, isn't it? Like if you go in my trigger, I just have written statement 1 time, but I got that 2 times. It's triggered. Why? That's because when I have inserted, it's triggered 2 times, because before insert and after insert also. Okay, so that's why I got the result 2 times. Okay, now suppose I want to do some action before insert and I want to do some action after insert. But they should be different actions. So how to differentiate them? There is a lot of way to do that. Now for that, what we are going to do, we are going to use trigger context variable. Okay, there are quite a few trigger context variable. We can use those. These are those, like trigger.new. I just if you go to the developer's guide, you will get more detail about these things, a whole list. Okay, but few of them I have listed here. There will be another 2 actually, new map and old map. I will discuss those later on. Now first I will discuss this because we are going to use this extensively. These are really important. All the time we will use this. Now trigger.new. So this new is a trigger context variable. Basically, it's going to hold the array of all new values, new record values. Okay, and the old is going to hold the array of old record values. Now with example, I will discuss this later on. Now I'm going to use first these variables like is insert, is update, is before, is after. These are basically going to return the Boolean value, like if the trigger is insert type, it will, this is insert, who is going to return true. If the trigger is of type update, then is update is going to return true. If the trigger is of type before, like I discussed already about before trigger, after trigger, then it's going to return true. If the trigger is of type is after, then it's going to return true. Okay, so how we are going to use this, I'm going to discuss and I will show you hands-on. So now instead of directly writing any debug statement, what I am going to do first, I'm going to use one if else statement. Now, so if trigger dot is insert. So if trigger dot is insert, then again if trigger dot is before, okay, then we are going to write system dot debug what we are going to write. So this is basically is insert yes, is before yes. So that means this is before insert. So we write this is triggered before insert. Okay. I'm writing all these things just to check, okay, to show you like how we can control the, yeah. So later on I will replace all these things with our business logic, okay. So now just I'm showing you how actually the trigger is executed, okay. So if trigger is before, okay, then we will check if trigger dot is update. Similarly, if trigger dot, now see, I can do it another, actually not only just update, I can even do, sorry, before doing the update, I'll just delete it now for the timing. So within insert, what we check, if the trigger is before, if the trigger is before is like this, if the trigger is not before, that means the trigger will be after, that means after insert. So in that case, I'll write one else statement also here, else. So if the trigger is not before, that means it's after. So system dot debug, this is triggered after insert, okay. Yeah, don't forget to give these commas, okay, those are very important, otherwise there will be error. Okay, so here whatever I have written so far, see, so first I'm checking if the trigger is insert. If it's insert, then if it's before, it will execute this statement. But if it's not before, that means it's after, then it will execute this statement, okay. Now if I don't write anything else like update or anything, what's going to happen, once I insert one account just like before, so before insert it will fire and it should print this statement, and again after insert also it should fire and it should print this statement, okay. Now we are going to check how it's working. So we will go to our physical org. So here we are in the account, we'll create another new account, okay. Oh sorry, not contact, we'll just create a new account. So we'll go to account, yeah, oh no, accounts, click on new and give it a name. I'll give it a name XYZ Limited, okay, then save. So we created a new record on account. Now we'll go to log and we will check. Now we got some new log here. We'll check this one. Yeah, see. So what we can see, it triggered 2 times as usual, before insert and after insert. So before insert, this is triggered before insert. After insert, this is triggered after insert. So now you can understand how the trigger is getting executed actually, okay. So I wanted to show you that if you are newcomer and if you are writing the trigger first time, it's really helpful. So I'm going slow. I'm just not going to all the actual like business logic code. after clearing this trigger, like what will happen, the way I'm explaining, you will be able to write trigger for any business cases. Okay. All right. So similarly, we are going to write for update as well. Okay. So I'll just copy and paste it here. So instead of insert, we are going to use is update. Okay. Then instead of trigger dot is before, that is fine. Now, if it's is update, then is before, that means before update, it is going to say this is triggered before update. And in else statement, this is triggered after update. Okay. I hope you got it. Okay. Now save. Now what we are going to do, we are going to do some update on one account. Okay. And then we'll see what happens. We'll go to our physical org again. And we are here with the account, that XYZ account. Okay, so we will make some update here. Now we'll edit it, edit. Maybe we'll just put one annual revenue. Okay. Okay. Just put an amount and then save. So basically we updated the record, the account record, that XYZ Limited. Okay. So it should, so at this moment, it's not creating new record. So it will not be like, it will be like updated. So we'll get the trigger executed before update and after update. Okay. So let's see and go to the log and we'll check. We'll click on debug only. Yes. See, now it's not inserted anymore because we have updated one existing record. Okay. So the trigger got executed before update and after update. So before update, we got this is triggered before update, and after update, we got this is triggered after update. Okay. So similarly, if you want, you can check the delete event also. Yeah. So similarly, like we have checked like before insert, after insert, before update, after update. We can check before delete, after delete also. Okay. Like if you delete the account, like suppose I created that XYZ account. If you delete that account, then also you can check in the similar. Okay. No, I'm not showing that again because it will be just wasting of time. You can do that now, like just copy paste, and instead of update, just make it is delete. Okay. Okay. So now if you can remember that I told you about some best practices. Now here, sorry, why the X is here. Yeah. Now here, so I have written this like this code like to print this statement like this is triggered before insert, but actually what's going to happen, there will be the business logic. Okay, so now before going to that, I want to show you one best practice, like not to write any business logic or anything inside this trigger. Okay, to keep the code clean and maintainable, scalable. Okay, so instead of writing all the business logics here, what we are going to do, we will use one helper class, or you can say trigger handler class, whatever. Basically, we are going to create one separate Apex class, and we are going to write our business logic there. Okay, but we will use those logic inside this trigger. So what we are going to do, basically, we will create one new Apex class. Okay, some people say it's helper class, some people say it's trigger handler. You can say whatever you want. Okay, so now to create a new class, so basically we are separating the business logic from this trigger, and we will put our all business logic in that separate class. Okay, so that actually create the code more modular, object oriented, whatever you say. Okay, so now we'll go to file, new, Apex class. Now I will give it a name. So this is the account trigger. So I will give it a name, account trigger handler. I hope there is no. Okay, what I'm going to write, account trigger. The name of my trigger is account trigger test1. Okay, so same name I will give, test1. Account trigger test1 handler. Okay. Yeah, so this is the common template we got, public class account trigger test1 handler. Now inside this, I will declare few method, public static method. Okay, so public static, I have already explained what is static, what is non-static methods, how to call them. And if you haven't watched my first video, you can watch that. If you are new, if you want to know the difference between static and non-static methods, and then you can check out my first video and you can see that. Okay, so public static void, this is a void method because I'm not going to return here anything. Okay, now what will be the name of my method? Now suppose this one is before insert. Okay, so what I'm going to name it, public static void before insert handler. Okay, so this is a method. Now to just make you understand what I am going to do, whatever I wrote here now I am not writing actual business rules, business logics. Actually, when I will explain some use case for trigger, that time I'll do. Right now, what I am showing you, like how to separate the logic from the trigger to a separate class. Okay, so whatever basically I was doing here, I'll cut it from here and I'll write it here. Okay, so before insert, it's going to do, this is triggered before insert, the same thing, the same work it will do what it was doing before. Now what else I have to do, this class name is account trigger test1 handler. Okay, so basically instead of writing here all the code, I am going to invoke that method. How to invoke that static method? The class name here is account trigger test1 handler. The class name dot the method name. What is the method name? Method name is before insert handler. Okay, so class name dot method name. Now in reality what's going to happen, probably I will pass some variables, like pass some value from here. Okay, that I will show when I will explain one a real trigger example. Okay, so for the time being I'm just invoking that before insert handle method here within this trigger. Okay, similarly else, so else means here it was after insert. Okay, so for after insert I will write another method here. So basically for each event, I will write a separate method within this class. Okay, so this is going to be after insert handler. After insert handler method. Okay, so this is triggered after insert. Okay, so this method is for before insert, this method is for after insert. So similarly here, basically I wanted this one there. Okay, I mean I have already written it, I don't want to change, or I'll just change, it will be easier for you to understand. So here also I'll just invoke that after insert handler method. Instead of before, this is after. Okay, oh, okay, after insert. So similarly for is update also we'll create another two methods, like before update, after update. Okay, now this is before insert handler, after insert handler. Similarly we can write more methods here. Okay, like before update handler, after update handler, like this. Okay, so okay, just create for few. So this is before update handler, this is after. You can give any name to this method, ABC, XYZ, anything, it doesn't matter. But why I am giving the name like this, before insert handler, after insert handler, this is like, you know, from the name we can understand that what this method is for. Okay, so this is just normal naming convention. So that's, I hope you understand that. Now before update handler, we want this to print out. So here we have to invoke the class name dot before update handler method. Okay, it's easy. Why I am explaining with the debug statement now, because if you are starting in the beginning, you know, you should understand that how the the trigger actually executes before and after different kinds of event like insert, update. So yeah, so now I think you have understood that why I am using the static methods most of the time, because it's easy to invoke them from other class or from trigger, because we don't need to create one instance of the class. Okay, all right, so still it's showing some error. What's the error for? Or incorrect void before? All right. Okay, so why it's showing like this? Because I'm not passing anything here. What happens when the trigger execute and we invoke one method, we must pass either the trigger dot new or the trigger dot old. Now, otherwise it will give the error. What is trigger dot new and trigger dot old? I already explained. These are the context variable. Actually, trigger dot new holds the new holds the new record values. Okay, after change the new record values, and trigger dot old holds the old record values. Okay, so oh, sorry, there are some extra brackets. Not dot new, they have to accept that also. Suppose yeah, see, now all the errors are gone. Okay, oh, the spelling is wrong. Handler, R was not there. R. Okay, so what I have done, nothing, just I'm just invoking this method before insert handler, after insert handler, similarly before update handler, after update handler. Okay, and when I'm invoking the method, I'm just passing here like trigger dot new, uh, trigger dot new variable. Now trigger dot new context variable, I already explained in the beginning that it holds the new values, okay, like after inserting or after updating. Similarly, in case if you need the old values, you can pass that also depending on your business rule. Now something you have to pass when you are invoking, otherwise otherwise this code is going to give exception. And when we are passing something, we have to receive that also. Okay, so that to receive that, I created one list of account type and I gave it a name A. Okay, now at this what happens when we will create the business rule here, that time we are going to use this value. But right now I am not doing anything with that one. Just to make you understand, I just wrote a debug statement here. Okay, so now all done. So now if you create another new account like we did before, you can see it will give the same result. Okay, even if we are not writing that print thing here, it will give the same result. So how will we check? We can check programmatically. We can actually create one new account. We can go here in anonymous window and create a new account and you can check, or we can do whatever we did before. We can do it physically, like we can go here, we can go to the accounts. Suppose we'll create a new account. account and save. So the account is saved. Now we will go to our developers org, check the log, debug only. See, this is triggered before insert, this is triggered after insert. Okay, so two events have fired the trigger, we can see, because we are inserting. So before inserting, once the trigger is executed, and after inserting also. Now here it's just printing, because instead of writing a business logic, I just wrote this debug statement. That's why you are getting this. Okay, now when you will do the write some real trigger code, that time we will do some business logic there. Maybe we'll populate one fields value to other fields, or from one objects fields to other objects fields, something like this. Whatever, we'll discuss some scenario, that time we will do that. Okay, now we can see like how the trigger is executing. Okay, so this was before insert, after insert. Now I will update the same account, suppose PQR. I'm going to update that. Edit. Now suppose I will update website. Okay, if I update the website, suppose I will write paramita.com. Okay, now save. So I have updated something here. See the website paramita.com, which was before empty. Okay, so now I will go to the developers org. I'll check my. Okay, now go to our developers log. Sorry, in the log, and we can see yeah, you can see that this is triggered before update and this is triggered after update. Okay, so now I hope it's clear to you like how the trigger code execute like before different kinds of events, basically before and after change in the record. Okay, so just as a summary, I will mention that what so far we have learned here, there are mainly two types of trigger: after trigger and before trigger, or you can say before trigger and after trigger. And uh, there are like 7 types of event, like trigger event. Now, when we say before trigger, it can be before insert and before update, before delete. Okay, and when you say after trigger, it can be after insert, after update, after delete, and after undelete. So remember, for undelete, there is no before undelete, because before undelete, there is nothing. Okay. So these are the types of trigger, and also we learned about the different kind of trigger variables, context variables, sorry, trigger context variables, like trigger new, trigger old, is insert, is update, is before, is after. Now, so far we have used this for is insert, is update, is before, is after. Okay, when we wrote our trigger. But then when you will write the real-time use case, you will often use trigger.new and trigger.old. Another two are there, new map and old map. Those also you are going to use. Now this template which I have written here and explained to you, this is actually you can use as your like template for any project, you know. Then you can change just the business logic here inside these methods. Okay, now for the business logic, like to practice more trigger, more scenarios, what I will suggest, because I will not get so much time frankly speaking, to make videos for those, but I will reveal one source here which I also followed, and you can follow as well. It will be quite helpful. This guy, like Zero Salesforce makes sense. Yeah. So he really created a good series of lots of videos. I think 30 videos probably he got with 30 use cases for trigger. Okay, and he created the videos here. I will leave this link in my description section. Okay, so yeah, he says that Apex triggers 0 to hero. So this is really nice resource. I think there are a lot of resource. You will find it out in internet. Quite a few resources. It's all available in internet. It's quite free. That's why I am not making video for those now, because it's quite available. Why I made this video, this one, like to explain the trigger like more easily and more clearly for the newcomer, especially who is just starting to write the trigger. So, and what are the best practices, like one trigger for one object, okay, not too many triggers, that will make a chaos. Okay, and bulkification. Now bulkification I haven't explained here in this my video, but bulkification is of course always a good practice. We have to do bulkification. Like when you will write the code here, you will understand that. Like in my first video of Apex, how to write Apex, I explained about the collection in Apex, like list, map, and set. Okay, so basically we have to use those in our Apex code. Whenever you are writing trigger also, to write the business logic, you have to use those. So why we have to use those? Because what happens when we bulkify our code? Bulkify means we use those collection. So what happens, it's basically collect all the records first, okay, and then execute the logic. So what it does, your code will be scalable, like it will be able to execute even if it work with one record or it work with multiple record. Because most of the time in Salesforce, what happens when we have to work with bulk record, isn't it? A lot of data are there, and everything we have to do with data. So our code should be made in such a way that it should be capable of handling multiple records, not just one record. So to do that, we have to use the collection. Okay, so that is actually bulkification. So that's also good practice when you are writing trigger. So this is not only for trigger. Bulkification, I think you should apply everywhere whenever you are writing Apex code. Okay, so you will understand that. So I will say, after watching my video, you jump into here. Here you will see some like real-time use cases for trigger, and you will get the code also. He is doing the coding here. You will be able to see. Okay, so I will say, first watch, if you are new to Apex, watch my first video where I have shown how to write Apex, and then the second video, how to work with data, like how to insert, how to fetch data, how to update, how to delete. Okay, so once those basic things are clear, then watch my third video, this trigger, how to write a trigger and how to separate the business logic from the trigger itself and write one separate handler class or helper class. Okay, and then you jump into here and practice those trigger. There are 30 use cases. You will get some more probably in some other resources also. Then you practice writing real trigger. Okay, so now for trigger, I will not make any more video at the moment because I will not get so much time. So in my next video, probably I will discuss about uh, either asynchronous Apex or the integration. Maybe I want to do one video on integration actually. So maybe I will start integration. I should do the asynchronous Apex actually after this, but maybe I will make that video later on. Probably I will first start the integration one because I am practicing that at the moment, so I am more interested about that. So probably I will start one video series on integration in detail. Okay. Now, thank you so much for watching my video, and if you are new to the Salesforce and all, if you want to know more like how to proceed, how to become Salesforce developer, you can text me in LinkedIn, no problem. And yeah, so keep learning, keep growing. That's all I want. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye bye.